Welcome everybody to another episode of Fins Nation. I am your host Louis Sung, and today we're going to be getting into the betting world. Yes, we are going into the wins and loss totals that sports books are already starting to put out about the Miami Dolphins and other teams around the AFC East, interestingly enough. So I do have some thoughts on what the numbers are currently saying, at least in these early stages. But before we get too far into that, I want to just go ahead and mention once again that our lead sponsor for this show is You Break Wheel Fix. You Break Wheel Fix is a wheel repair and remanufacturing company with over 20 years of experience. They specialize in complete wheel repair, repairing wheels from curb rash, bends, and cracks, and they also specialize in refinishing, polishing, machining, and custom colors that will suit your car's needs. So if you want some Miami Dolphins colors on your wheels, they can help you out with that. Lastly, You Break Wheel Fix offers a full array of factory and custom wheel and tire applications, so all you have to do to get started is to contact them at 305-748-0112 or at You Break Wheel Fix on all social media platforms, so Twitter, Facebook, what have you. Again, you can contact them at 305-748-0112 or go to any social media platform and look them up at You Break Wheel Fix. Get your wheels upgraded today and start showing off your Dolphins fandom. And also, this show is brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each. It's up to you to decide. Just choose the over or the under on those individual players' fantasy projections, whether that's individual stats or the classic fantasy point projections. They give you free squares, special Taco Tuesday promos, Flex Friday specials to where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. With offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up at this point. So use the promo code FIVE, that's F-I-V-E, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, that's promo code FIVE, F-I-V-E. Go to PrizePicks.com, deposit your $100, get $100 for free to play with, and go start winning today. So now let's get into this whole sportsbook betting thing. Now, admittedly, I'm not much of a gambler, which is ironic considering how many times I talk about Prize Picks. But the thing about Prize Picks is that with them, I'm just picking one specific player, and I'm just guessing, are they going to score more points than one player? Are they going to do more assists? Are they going to throw more for touchdowns, hit a home run, whatever? That's a little easier to predict just based on the pattern of the player themselves. Whatever the rest of the team does is irrelevant as long as that one specific player does the one specific thing that I need them to do. With these sorts of things, it's a little bit more difficult because now you are basically saying, what is the entire team going to do? And on many cases, you're putting an entire season's worth of betting on the line all at once. So before the seasons even begin, before you can see any kind of factors like, is somebody going to be hurt? Like, for instance, just last night, Jimmy Butler ended up not playing, and I needed to pick the over on somebody else instead, and I wasn't able to because I had already committed to Jimmy Butler. But as a result of Jimmy Butler going out, the stats of other players were changed because all of a sudden Jimmy Butler was not there to actually do what he was supposed to do. So anybody who picked Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, whatever the case may be for the Miami Heat, all of a sudden things were different because Jimmy Butler was not there to do his job. With that said, in the case of these sports books, now you have to just assume that the entire team will do fantastic or really terrible with no prior knowledge to what players will be available. Like, let's say, for instance, let's take the Miami Dolphins, obviously. This is the main point of the whole show is, right? So let's just use them as the perfect example. So as of right now, Better Edge, which by the way is a sponsor of the 3 Yards Per Carry podcast, you should go check them out if you haven't done so already. Better Edge currently has the Miami Dolphins at 9.5 wins or losses. Now, according to Alfredo Arteaga, whom I take good advice from when it comes to these situations because he has more knowledge of this sort of world than I do, that's a very high number. But the thing that bothers me, though, is that the New York Jets are also at 9.5. Now, what was it about the Jets last season that made anybody think that they were a 9.5 type of team? True, they had a lot of good players, but they also had a complete PR nightmare at the quarterback position with the whole Mike White versus Zach Wilson versus Joe Flacco and all that other nonsense. Nevertheless, the Jets, overall, anyway, had a fairly decent season, I would say. I mean, given the circumstances they were going through, 7-10 isn't really all that bad. But all of a sudden, the Jets are at 9.5 along with the Miami Dolphins. Now, why is that? Obviously, I'm not stupid. I'm well aware that they are anticipating the arrival of Aaron Rodgers, which is It's not a question of if, it's a matter of when. When is Aaron Rodgers going to arrive in New York? When is he going to become the starting quarterback? They're already talking about him as if they're preparing game plans with him, even though the trade has not been official because the Green Bay Packers are not satisfied with the level of compensation that they are going to be getting from the Jets as of right now. But the really crazy thing about all of this is that in spite of the offseason the Miami Dolphins have had so far, you would think that at the very least they would be ranked higher than the Jets, if only because of the amount of talent that they've added on the defense. The fact that they have one of the legends of the NFL right now at the defensive coordinator spot. But it's not even that they are tied. Better Edge has them right now at 9.5, both teams. But as I look a little bit deeper and I start looking at other sports books that are also doing these projections, the win total odds for the 2023 season, and this article that I'm reading here is as of March 27th. Per DraftKings, which everybody is well aware of by now, the Dolphins and the Jets are both at 9.5, right? Except when it comes to the Dolphins, the over is plus 100 and the under is minus 120. For the Jets, it's the over is minus 130 and the under is plus 110. So based on my understanding of that, that means that anybody who bets the over on the Jets is not likely to win very much, because the real money, if you really want to bet big, would be to assume that they go under 9.5 wins, which means less than 10 wins. Meanwhile, if you pick the Dolphins to go under 9.5 wins, which means a maximum of 9 wins, that means that you're going to be making money if you bet the over and you win. Are you serious? It's difficult for me to say what the reasoning is for this. The corpse of Aaron Rodgers, who had to be convinced to not retire by sitting in a dark room, basically sensory deprivation for 4 days, is enough to put the Jets over the Dolphins in the eyes of Vegas? Now, I understand. I truly do. The quarterback position is the most important position in the NFL. Everybody knows this. That's why everybody is always on the lookout for one. But the real question I have here, is this a result of a lack of confidence in the Dolphins to win? Or is this an overabundance of confidence in Aaron Rodgers to continue to be MVP caliber player Aaron Rodgers? Because that can be the only explanation. Think about this for a second. The Miami Dolphins have upgraded their defensive coordinator position. Again, this is basically an off-season breakdown here. But now we're looking at it in the eyes of the Oddsmakers, who are in charge of all this stuff. As of March 27th, which means this is in the aftermath of all the moves that the Miami Dolphins have made, which means this is after trading for Jalen Ramsey and upgrading from, and again, respect to Kader Kohou, but Jalen Ramsey is an upgrade at the boundary cornerback position over Kader Kohou. And you could easily argue that he's an upgrade over Byron Jones, even when he was healthy. So this is after trading for Jalen Ramsey. This is after adding David Long Jr. to the linebacker core and making it something worthwhile. This is after getting a healthy Bradley Chubb back. And of course, this is after acquiring Vic Fangio to be an upgrade over Josh Boyer at the defensive coordinator position. Nobody should be disrespecting Vic Fangio like that. Look at the talent that they are already adding on defense, and there is still room for more improvement. They still have to extend Christian Wilkins, which eventually is going to happen. They are still looking at extending Zach Sealer. They just signed also Malik Reed, who I assume is going to be the Melvin Ingram replacement, which again, my personal bias is that I prefer Melvin Ingram, but that's just me. But Malik Reed does have some level of familiarity with Vic Fangio and his scheme, and he did really well when he was there. So I don't particularly lose much sleep over it. I just personally like Melvin Ingram. That's just me. But there were many instances where the defense could have been much, much better last season. And we were bemoaning the fact that Josh Boyer kept doing the cover zero, blitzing, making it so that quarterbacks had an easy road to finding an open receiver. It doesn't work all the time. That's why it was such a surprise in the season prior to that, and nobody was really ready for it. Eventually, they adapted, and teams were able to expose the Dolphins. With Vic Fangio, that's not how it's going to be. Vic Fangio, again, everywhere he's gone, he has had successful defenses, and there is no reason to believe that he's just going to suddenly not be good at his job, especially since most teams are actively trying to implement his defensive style. And as for the offensive side of the ball, so the Dolphins went 9-7 last season. And that was with several games where Tua was not even available to play because of the concussions. He left the Bengals game. Teddy Bridgewater had to come in and take over. And the season seemed to be in jeopardy because Teddy went down eventually as well. Skylar Thompson had to come in. And then Skylar ended up getting hurt. And Teddy had to come in against the Minnesota Vikings. Eventually Tua came back and they went on a tear in that time period. Things started slowing down as teams started to adapt a little bit. And then eventually Tua got hurt again. And it seemed to me that the season was over. And yet, in spite of all that, Miami went 9-7, and they made the playoffs for the first time since 2016. All of that had to go wrong, and they still managed to make it to the playoffs. Now the bookies are trying to tell us that as of right now, the odds are in favor of Miami getting 9 wins or less. Based on what? Did the offense have such a dramatic downturn that it justifies that decision? The Miami Dolphins have lost Mike Gesicki on offense. They have lost Trent Sherfield to the Buffalo Bills. That is essentially the extent to which the Miami Dolphins have lost talent on offense. Even Cedric Wilson is still there, and I've already talked about what I think Cedric Wilson can still do. So is this just under the assumption that Tua is not going to be able to continue to play at the level that he has? That's what it seems like to me. It seems like even the odds makers are not convinced of Tua's ability. Meanwhile, the Jets, who are trading for Aaron Rodgers and are probably going to give up the farm eventually to do it, with his walking dead corpse and some of his old buddies from Green Bay, Alan Lazard, and mind you, I'm trying not to be disrespectful to these players. They are obviously good at their jobs because they are in the NFL to begin with. But the whole argument with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay was that he never had any weapons. And so the solution is to go get the weapons that he had in Green Bay. And now he's going to New York, and suddenly everything's going to be wonderful? The Jets are going to suddenly become a juggernaut in the AFC East? I get it. Aaron Rodgers is way better than Zach Wilson was. There's no denying that for a second. And I am sure that Zach Wilson is not going to be happy about the fact that he's going to be a backup now. But even if you have them at equal numbers, 9.5, the fact that you have it in the odds favors that the Jets will go over 9 wins and the Dolphins will have less than 9 wins, that puts the Dolphins at 3rd place in the AFC East right off the bat. And that is including all the improvements that have been made on defense. That is including all of the development that a lot of these players have had in the Mike McDaniel offense, which again lit the NFL up for a long time. What exactly is the malfunction here? What is the logic you are basing your evaluation on? Because it has to be based on the quarterback. There's no way the Jets would be as high as they are if it wasn't for the impending Aaron Rodgers trade. So why do you have the Dolphins lower than them? It has to be the superstar quarterback name. It has to be. You don't go from the worst team in the AFC East to the second best, only behind the Buffalo Bills, just because of any other kind of acquisition. It had to be because of Aaron Rodgers. And you must have the Dolphins lower in spite of the fact they made the playoffs last season because you either don't have faith in Tua or you just have that much faith in Aaron Rodgers. It's one or the other. Now, I say all of this, and Alfredo Arteaga has made it a point to say that it's still very early in how these things are going to go down, that eventually, as bets start to be made, the odds will change because Vegas always has to follow the betting pressure. As people bet, as people start making their assumptions, they will adjust the odds based on the actions of others. But as of right now, Better Edge has the Dolphins at 9.5, and so do the Jets. And DraftKings has the Jets being more successful than the Dolphins. All I can say right now is that it's going to be a lot of fun to watch Tua light up the NFL next season. They are either assuming that Tua is not nearly as good as it looked like he was last season, or they are assuming that Tua barely plays at all because he's just going to get injured the first time he steps onto the football field. Both are very presumptuous, and I personally am not convinced that that's going to be the case. So, again, I am no professional gambler. I prefer to go on individual stat levels and stick with price picks. But if you are somebody who likes to go and do the whole team thing, go to Better Edge because they can help you out. So 3 yards per carry will be able to give you some extra tips on where to put your money, I suppose. But I will be very interested in seeing where the odds go after the draft kicks in, after training camp starts, because who knows who gets hurt. Could you imagine, just for one moment, how far the Jets would plummet if something happened to Aaron Rodgers, or if by some drastic turn of events the trade falls through, or Aaron Rodgers decides to retire after all, or if he gets hurt during training camp? Watch how fast their odds plummet. I would be very interested to see what happens if Tua were to get hurt again, where the odds would be for the Dolphins, if it goes very far at all. My personal prediction is that the Miami Dolphins end up doing a lot more than what these bookies are saying that they're going to do. I think the Dolphins will get at least 10 wins. I think they will make the playoffs again. And if Tua manages to stay healthy into the playoffs, I think they finally win a playoff game, which I can't even remember how many years it's been since that happened. I think they can do it, and I think that they will. And I'm just going to tell you right now, if Better Edge and all these people have the Dolphins going under as far as the odds go ahead and bet the over. That's my personal advice to you, because there's no way that with all the talent that they have on defense now, and the fact that the offense is going to be even more developed than it was before, the Dolphins are going to get at least 10 wins. There's no way they can't. Even if they don't win the AFC East, they're going to be a very dangerous team in the rest of the AFC and the NFL. That's going to be it for this show. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you haven't gone already to You Break Wheel Fix, make sure you go check them out. Give them a call at 305-748-0112. They are a wheel repair and remanufacturing company with over 20 years of experience. If you want to go ahead and get some custom wheels for your car so you can project your Dolphins fandom everywhere you go, they can go ahead and help you out with that. Again, contact them at 305-748-0112. Either be able to display your Dolphins fandom on your wheels, or if you just need your regular wheels repaired. They can help you out with both. You can call them at 305-748-0112, or just go to any social media platform and look up You Break Wheel Fix. They will be on there for you. And make sure to remember to go to prizepicks.com and use the promo code 5. Again, you have to spell that out, F-I-V-E. Go ahead and sign up, and with your initial deposit, you can put in up to $100, and they will match you up to $100. So basically, put in $100 of your dollars, they'll give you $100 of their dollars, and you can use their $100 to start winning today. Again, go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code 5, get started winning today. Thank you once again, everybody, for joining me for this show. Make sure you come back tomorrow for even more Miami Dolphins talk.